Welcome to tonight's Landscapes podcast.
Good morning from the Isle of Skye. Well, since I set my camera up, we have had some rain, so the waterproofs are on now, well, the waterproof jacket at least. So as you can see, the light is now out. It's hitting both bits of the foreground and the very tops of the mountains there. Well, I've just had some nice cloud filling the top of my frame. I recomposed a bit, went a bit tighter, closer to 50mm now, and that's actually moving off from the top right end of the frame, and yeah, I think that's probably going to be my favourite shot from this morning in terms of the cloud. The light hasn't really changed that much just because the sun's in full view and all it's doing is basically moving further and further south. So as you can see, we finally got light on Louhunish, so I've moved yet again. So this is probably going to be my last piece of camera just because of the midges, but I'll share any other images that I do get this morning. Yes! Oh, it's gone again. Just as I started recording. I didn't even get the shot.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight we welcome Nick Hanson, a multi-award-winning photographer based in the Isle of Skye. His work showcases the rugged beauty of this part of Scotland, but his portfolio is far broader, embracing the US, Yorkshire, Snowdonia, the Hebrides, as well as some impressive wildlife portraiture and drone work. Originally from Dumfries, southwest Scotland, Nick will be familiar to many of us as part of the excellent team presenting Photography Online monthly on YouTube. Confession, I'm an avid viewer because I admire the scenery and I learn a heck of a lot to boot. Nick also has his own YouTube channel and runs photography workshops for the Skye Photo Academy and MC2 Photography. His work's also been featured in Outdoor Photography, Digital Camera, Practical Photography, and many other publications. Nick, it really is lovely to have you joining us tonight. And I'd like to kick off by asking you to talk us through your approach or your philosophy to your photography, please.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Louise, Paul and Douglas. It's great to be here. So my philosophy to photography, I'm not sure if hopefully I'll answer this right. So watching you, I've been watching some of the previous episodes and I'm thinking, how am I going to answer this if she asks it? So for me, if I'm answering this correctly, I'm a planner. I like to plan my photography shoots. So for instance, I was out on Thursday, Friday morning at the Quirang again, my home from home. Unlike what photography, Outdoor Photography magazine says, it's not a 15-minute walk, it's a 15-minute drive from my house, the Quirang. It'd be good if it was a 15-minute walk.
I was wondering.
It's a 15-minute drive. It's probably about an hour and a half, 2-hour walk. So I like to plan my photo shoot. So yeah, I went to the Quirang Thursday or Friday. I had a particular spot I wanted to shoot from, and it's getting to the time of year when that basically viewpoint stops working. So, I was looking at the forecast. I'm basically head away for 2 weeks tomorrow. So it was my kind of last chance to shoot from this particular viewpoint and try and get a better shot than I've already had from here. So yeah, I like to plan the shoots, but obviously, there are times when you can't plan. So like next week, I'm going away. I can't necessarily plan those things, but when I'm going out by myself, I'll plan as much as I can. I will react to light, and if it's whatever I'm walking and it happens, or if I'm basically going for a mountain walk, we'll have the camera with me, then I'll most likely react to like that. But for the most part, I prefer to plan my shoots quite meticulously as well, whether the time of year, conditions that I want, etc. And that comes down to persistence. It's a big thing in any type of photography, landscape, wildlife, what have you. Persistence, patience as well, being when you're there, waiting 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever it may be. So yeah, that's kind of my approach to photography. Yeah.
And when I look at your work, both in your your portfolio online, some of the shots that you've sent us, and also your videos, it's really clear that you have a really intimate knowledge of that particular areas in order to be able to get kind of the best out of it. And can I just say, all of you are based up there. I don't know why I did that accent, but I have to say, I am so immensely, immensely jealous because I've got Worthing. Yeah, it doesn't have the same dramatic gorgeousness that was where you guys are based.
It's God's land.
Well, I mean, dramatic, yes, but watching your videos as well, Louise. I know you go around a lot, but I think you've shot quite a bit around the area, Worthing area. It's beautiful nonetheless. It may not have the dramatic peaks, mountains, wherever like Skye or the Highlands of Scotland have, but it's beautiful nonetheless, and it's how you personally capture that. I think that's the main thing. I used to live in a city called Peterborough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know Peterborough at all. It's the Fenland. It's flat as a pancake, and that's how I got more into wildlife photography. Actually, when I was first properly getting into it, I was drawn to the wildlife side. So roe deer. Although saying that, I used to come back up to Scotland quite a bit. So my family moved away from Dumfries when I was 17, back in 1989. And I used to go up to the Cairngorms quite a lot with a gentleman called Neil McIntyre. Neil at all. So I used to hire Neil to photograph great red squirrels, the deer and what have you, but then I also had the local wildlife to there. So yeah, I think there's always something on your doorstep. And actually, I don't know if you know a guy called Jamie Overland. I think that's his name, Jamie Overland.
I don't, but I shall look him up.
I'm sure I've got the name right, Overland. He lives in the Peterborough area. And he's got a YouTube channel. I'm sure that's that. I'm sure I've got the name right. And I didn't know there was so much beautiful woodland around there. So, if I was more into kind of woodland and whatever, I'd have loads of stuff on my doorstep. But
and I think also if you quite often it's very easy to have envy of other areas.
Yes.
But it's only when you start. I mean, I'm just thinking about some of the stuff that I've seen fairly sort of over the past year with Mads. He's always off all over the place, and it's only when he's suddenly started to explore his own area that he's sort of started to fall in love with it a little bit more.
Yeah.
One day, Nick, I might fall in love with Worthing, but I love it where you lot are. Marvellous. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hand over to Dougie because he has chosen his first image and Paul's going to pop it up on the screen that he'd like to ask you a few questions about.
Aye, so this, I've found it on your website, so I know what it is. It's Ruhunish, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Ruhunish, or Ruhunish. Yeah.
That's a cracking picture. So it's right up in the kind of top corner of Skye, yeah?
It's basically the most northerly point on the island. I mean, not where I'm standing. It's a little bit behind me. This plateau just extends for another quarter of a mile behind where I'm actually standing at this moment. But I mean, that's probably the best conditions I've had up there in terms of the sky, basically. I've been there kind of, when you've got the reflection, when you've got the calmness, got the nice light hitting the cliff face there. But to get that sky, that was something special.
Yeah. The sky's fantastic. It's an evening shot, is that right? It's kind of sunset.
It is, yeah. So it's a sunset shot, and I think that would have been maybe August last year.
Right.
So still potentially midge. And actually, I don't think they were, if I remember rightly, they weren't that bad that evening, the midges, because I've been there on numerous occasions by myself or with customers, and it's just been midge hell. Really
it
bad.
was quite marshy, so you get a lot of them there, wouldn't you?
Yes, it's quite boggy there for sure. Yeah.
Did you have to wait particularly long for the light when you got there?
For that light, I mean, we had light during the evening. This was pretty late on just before sunset. But to get the light as good as that, so that quality of light, the golden light. I mean, it was probably half an hour before sunset. And I mean, I've got various pictures from that evening, but the way the light was hitting it at that moment was just so nice.
Yeah, it's well caught. I do like the way too that you've got both the wee lock in there and the sky
Yeah.
are both kind of pointing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They're
Cliffs.
pointing to the cliffs at the
Yeah.
background. Yeah, those kind of the textures in the sky,
Aye,
just in the clouds pointing.
That's not something you can plan for, really, obviously,
No.
is it? But it's a lucky strike, and you captured it well.
Thank you.
How accessible is that? Because we're looking at the map, it looks like there's no paths or anything there.
There is, yeah. So there's actually 2 points you can walk to begin with, to the cliff, to the edge of the cliff. So I don't know if you can see, there's a wee white building on the left-hand side of the cliff.
Bothy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lookout. It used to be a kind of sea lookout, which is now a bothy. So some people just go there. They will either, I think it's got 3 beds in it, or they'll just camp outside. But bit to the right, where it kind of dips down. I mean, I'm pointing at the photo, and obviously it means nothing. where that kind of dip halfway across, you come down there. I mean, it's a very minor scramble. It's nothing major. It's probably just harder going up because of the relative steepness of it. But it's nothing beyond most people, I would say. But it's hard for me to say that, because it is all relative to your to your ability, how good you are on uneven ground. But yeah, I mean, it's not by no means that overly hard. And then once you're down there, you've got all these beautiful pools of water and wee lock-ins, and this is probably, for me, is the nicest one in terms of its shape. And we've also got sea stacks there as well. So to the left of where that photo was taken, some sea stacks and some nice bit of coastline there as well, which can work really nicely. So yeah, I mean, it started working now. It's ideally kind of March, April, May, June, July, August, the sun's setting right behind you. So if you're kind of there right at sunset, you potentially got your shadow then coming into the shot, if you're that close to the edge of the water. So if not, just going to step a bit further back and then zoom in to get your composition. But I think this was taken maybe late August, early September.
How close are you to the water there, David?
Very close, yeah. I mean, I think that was probably 15, 16 mil, probably pretty close at that point.
That's nice. And
the bog cotton. The bog cotton in that is just...
Yeah.
I mean, that's just beautiful, the bog cotton.
Yeah, I mean, there's some bits. If you have a look at I think it's available on my YouTube channel. I think it's available to watch. There's one, actually, it's basically just a drone video from there. And I think it was taken in June. I had every intention of actually doing a video for my YouTube channel, from there, but it was just midge hell. So I thought, nah, I'm not going to be able to talk to the camera here this evening. And so I just stuck the drone up and then just did a wee video. And one section, I think it was probably a little bit further forward than this wee lock in here, it was just a carpet of bog cotton. But unfortunately, you don't get it in the best places, for the best shots, unless you just wanted a carpet of white, with the cliff face behind.
So how much planning actually went into that shot? Because, it's it's off the beaten tracks. I presume it's more just kind of local knowledge for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there countless times, and just the forecast. I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm more of a sunrise person. I very rarely go out by myself for sunset. And it was my other half, and she was up here at the time, and she's like, let's go to Ruhunish. So it was kind of down to her suggestion to go here for sunset. And, we looked at the forecast and thought, yeah, we're probably going to get light. But as you know, the weather forecast is not always, you just have to kind of go and hope that what it says is true. And some people might say we got lucky, but we didn't get lucky because we looked at the forecast. We saw there's going to be a nice amount of clouds. And just hoping that we get the light to go with it as well. So yeah.
Aye. Good stuff. I think I've run out of questions now, actually. So I'll just hand you back over to Paul now.
So regards to landscape photography, what do you think are some of the things that you consider to be the best aspects of landscape photography as regards to what to look out for?
I mean, well, the main thing for me is light. Regardless of the actual landscapes themselves, light, plays the most important part in photography. And if you watch a certain other YouTuber's video from this morning as we record this, you talked about light. And it's something we've talked about in Photography Online. Thank you for the plug, Louise. So yeah, I mean, light is, very much the most important, but I mean, it's very cliche, but there's no such thing as bad light. It's just the right subject to go with that light. But, going back to the Kerrang again, you need direct light at the Kerrang. Old Man of Storr, ideally you want direct light, although the Old Man of Storr can work when it's kind of misty and you've not necessarily got light.
Yeah.
So I would say that's for me the kind of the most important factor of landscape photography. Outside of that, I mean, the actual landscapes themselves, I don't think there's I suppose there's probably not such a thing as I was going to say not such a bad thing as a landscape, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because going back to something that Louise picked up on, Worthing, isn't it? Worthing, where you live, Louise. I don't know what. Sorry?
Unfortunately.
You know, comparing it to Skye, you know, where you've got rugged mountains, you've got rugged landscape there. And going back to Peterborough again, it was very flat. But if I was really more into landscape photography then, I could have made something out of the, you know, the fenlands, because in the fenlands, you've got, you know, drainage ditches with grasses growing out the edges of them and that. And, you know, I'm sure there was stuff to be had there. So I think there's a lot of aspects to a landscape photograph.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that. You make the best of the type of terrain you've got.
Yeah.
So it's a flat terrain, it's a hilly terrain, it's a, you know, seascapes, town, whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, but that then comes down to photographers' ability to be able to make the most of that. And that's probably the most challenging part. I mean, it's almost, dare I say, too easy for me in some aspects. You know, there is, you know, I think I'm not taking anything away from myself here, but I mean, there is still a lot of other things involved in that. But something like, if we go back to the Kerrang again, you can probably do a Kerrang counter on this video. I always say to my customers, you can basically stand anywhere along the path and get a good photograph. But what I mean by that is, as long as the light is doing its thing. You know, for that particular location, if you don't get the light, you're not going to get even a half decent photograph. But
I've always said we're like moths when it comes to photographers. We go to the light like moths. Yeah, it's a great thing there. Doug, I'm going to hand it back to you. I believe you've got another photograph.
Yes, I've got a lovely shot lined up here. Nick, this is a cracker.
Thank you.
We've got a lovely autumnal scene. I love kind of dark clouds and a bright sunlit foreground. I think I've said that before on this podcast. So I would assume this is maybe a lucky shot. Would I be right in saying that? It's not something you could plan for.
It was, yeah. So going back, it is me saying I like to plan my shots. I was actually with customers that day. This is in a place called Craig Ellicky Nature Reserve. I don't know if either of you, Paul or Dougie, are aware of it. It's just on the edge of Abbeymoor over in the Cairngorms. I mean, it's somewhere I love to go each year if I can, but normally in the autumn I'm very busy with customers from groups from America, Switzerland, Canada. Luck would have it, we went to this particular spot, and most of us we probably would have been towards the other side of the rainbow to begin with. And I think there was one of the customers just down this end of the loch. Yeah. And I just shouted, "Rainbow!" Everyone just ran down the other end of this loch. And I mean, it must have hung around for about 10 minutes. And I'd actually been doing some ICM shots before this. So I'd actually had the image stabilization turned off on my lens and had the 24-105 lens on. And this lens is not that great when you've got the image stabilization turned off.
Right.
So I was taking photographs and didn't realize I actually still had the image stabilization turned off. And later reviewing the image, I thought, oh, damn. I don't know if these are sharp, and this was after the rainbow had gone. I don't know if they're sharp, but luck would have it, there was actually about 2 shots that were actually sharp. So I mean, back to the shot itself. So, so we all ran down the end of the loch, and everyone was just hand holding. There's no, obviously with rainbows, the light could just go. So we didn't know how long we had. It was a case of, don't worry about tripods, just hand hold. You should be able to get shutter speed quick enough, he says. I can't remember what the shutter speed was for this. I mean, it was relatively fast, but I think, I don't know, for whatever reason, some of them are not coming out very sharp. And luck would have it, just as that happened, even though there's kind of reflections in the water there. I mean, there is a lot of grasses at this end. You can see the leaves blowing off the tree from the right, which just adds an extra dimension to the shot for me. And I've actually only shared this once on social media, and I've shared it in black and white. It's the first time I've ever processed a rainbow shot in black and white. And if you look at it on my Instagram or whatever social media channel, it actually looks very kind of almost 3-dimensional. It looks like the rainbow's popping out at you in the black and white version. I can remember someone commented saying, then, "Why black and white?" And I just went, "Why not?" If you've got so much great contrast. I mean, I love the color shot. Don't get me wrong, but I just thought, I'll just have a play with Instagram here and just post a black and white rainbow shot.
It's an
So
odd
this one,
decision to make on a
this is actually the
rainbow,
first time the
black
color
and white.
one's been seen. Sorry, Dougie.
Uh-huh. I'll say it's an odd decision to make, but
It is,
obviously you
but,
felt inspired,
Yeah, I mean, just because there's so much contrast in the shot. I mean, I have seen a black and white rainbow shot a couple of times in the past, and because there's so much contrast in this shot, I just thought it's going to work. And yeah, it did. But I mean, obviously the color version, it just tells you, the time of year, that it's autumn, and obviously you've got those beautiful golden colors.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I see all the, as you were talking about, the leaves in the air, but the water is really calm as well. So there's actually quite a sheltered area there.
It is, yeah. I've never been there and not had reflections. It's really weird. I mean, I think you have got basically trees surrounding this loch from kind of all sides. And I mean, it's not a massive loch either. But yeah, sometimes there's more grasses in it. So, I guess I don't know if even that may keep it calm as well, being some sort of resistant with the grasses or not. But I mean, you will find areas where there is just water as well. And I've never had any issues with non-reflections. But even if there wasn't reflections there, for me, it wouldn't matter because it's always produced good images for me.
I was going to ask about the lack of foreground, but presumably you didn't have time to check and see if there was anything.
No, you're right on the edge of the loch, and I mean the closest thing are the grasses to you. And I don't think it really. Personally,
that wasn't a criticism in any way.
No, it's fine. No, I don't. I'm just saying, for me, it's all about the rainbow, the light in the rainbow.
Yeah. The foreground would just take too much or put too much into the picture.
Yeah.
I think you've had a whole pile of questions and you've actually answered them all within everything that you've said. So I'm just going to hand you back to Paul again now.
Thanks, Doug.
Unless anyone else has got any questions about it. No?
I have got an image just right in the back of this, Nick, so I'm going to put it up in a minute. Unless Louise has got any questions.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things I love about this image is the fact that you've captured static, but with some of them with the movement of those leaves there. And I always feel quite envious of shots where you see either the movement of snow or capturing the unusual element. So yes, of course, you've got the unusual element of the rainbow, but the fact you have so many leaves that are just swirling around in the air, and yet just the beauty of the staticness of those wonderful birches in the background.
Yeah. And also, I mean, as Dougie mentioned, the calmness of the water. So you've got the calmness plus the ferociousness, I guess, of the wind. It's just breeze that just caused this. I mean, and you can't. Even from here, I can't think about zooming in whether you can actually see any movement in the trees in the back or not. So it was just quite bizarre. This moment of wind that just blew all these leaves across. No AI involved here.
Nick, I'm not going to lie. I'm getting quite. When I looked through your shots in the background, I was like, "Oh, I've got shot envy of so many of them." But this is. It's okay. You've got luck there, but you also had. I think partly the luck shots. You've just got to know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And if something catches you by surprise, you've got to be able to react instantly. And that's what I appreciate in this. It's just that I know what to do to make the best out of this shot.
And obviously, one of the main things is the polarizer. Quickly get the polarizer on to intensify the rainbow. I mean, it was a pretty intense rainbow anyway. So if you didn't have a polarizer on, it wouldn't have made, wouldn't have mattered so much. But it just gives that extra punch as well and warms up the colours a wee bit as well. But for those out there that don't know, with a polarizer, you can actually completely remove the rainbow as you're rotating the polarizers.
Yeah. And I appreciate, because I think the black and white version might be on your website, if I remember correctly. And
it's not on the website, it's on my Instagram.
There we are. I've stalked you too much the past few days. But it really is, as Dougie said, it sort of feels counterintuitive to go, oh, rainbow, beautiful colour. But it does. It just pops.
Yeah.
It's really quite interesting. I've never thought to do a black and white, and if I remember correctly, it was quite what I would term as quite a hard process of it, because it just pops beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the contrast. It lends itself well to quite a bit extra processing.
Lovely. Sorry, Paul, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, no worries at all. Some great comments there about that beautiful image. Just to cap it as well, I absolutely love the birch trees, and I see them in this image. It's like, see the birch are great when you got light hitting against the trunks. They just stand out. What I love about this shot, Nick, is the light. As you mentioned about light earlier on, we do attract to go to light, and the canopy I gather is kind of highlighted out in the image. And the composition you've got is amazing. The shadows, the light, and of course the background, even to the minute point where you can actually see like a bent over kind of sapling tree at the bottom on the left hand side. It looks broken. My point is, just regards to this image, in regards to your post processing, looking at this image, what kind of things you try to highlight in this image by post processing the image?
In all honesty, this will probably surprise a lot of people. There wasn't that much post processing required.
That, actually.
Yeah, I mean, because some people might think, how has it got this, this much light on the tree? It's a foggy day. There's no real evidence of light streaming in. It's just, the light reflecting down onto it. And from what I remember, there wasn't really that much required. I might have lifted the luminance of the yellows a little bit. But apart from that, not. I mean, some other shots I got from from that particular morning had actually gone a bit more on the blue side with the processing. They just seem to work better, being a bit kind of with the fog, the mist kind of being of that kind of blue feel to it. But this I just kind of kept as it was. It just, for me, it just felt right. In terms of the composition, I mean, we're just kind of going a bit off your question here. That actual sapling that you mentioned, I was moving left and right. As you'll know, with woodland photography, you're looking for overlapping elements or trying not to get them to overlap, but you're bound to get it anyway. And it was just, when I moved to my left a bit, I saw that wee tree just bent over and thought, that's where I'm going to stand. And it just seemed to, it worked so well for me. And I think that, again, that's probably about fifth. And it was just trying to get as much of the tree as I could. I just, I was thinking, if only I had like a 12mm lens or something to encompass more of it. But then elements in the background would probably, be that little bit smaller. So you might kind of lose that sapling into the distance at an even wider focal length.
Yeah. It certainly fills the frame, the tree. All the limbs are actually touching the three corners there. And then that sapling is beautifully framed within a frame. And they'll see the separation you've got in the background as much as possible. You've got all the pines separated as well. So it's beautiful lined up composition.
Thank
really
you.
nice.
And I mean, it's an area that I would say I don't do that, for the most part, I don't do that well in, because we don't have really any woodland on Skye.
Okay.
Apart from on the south of the island, but that's like an hour and a half drive for me if I wanted to, go and photograph some woodland more in the autumn, it would be. So I just take the opportunities when I can, when I'm off the island, whether it be in the autumn. I mean, this was actually Christmas Eve last year.
Okay.
I was due to go over to my mum's. This was down in the Peak District, at the Halves, and there'd been a forecast for fog, and I just said, "Look, can we go out?" She says, "Yeah, I know where to go." And so we went to this particular forest. And then when I got to my mum's that evening, she goes, "I thought you were supposed to be here like 2 o'clock." I said, "Well, we went out for some photography." She would rather put out that I was late that day, but I showed her the photographs I got. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, yeah.
But yes, I mean, I do find it tricky at times. But I mean, it's that whole cliche of fog, mist in woodland just helps so much. And even when I got to my mum's, I think it was like the 20 Boxing Day or the 27th. So she's in East Yorkshire.
Okay.
I mean, this was a period, I think, like over a week, with some parts of the country were getting really good fog last year.
Even we got it, Nick. Even we got it.
So I went up to Scarborough. So mum lives south of Scarborough. So I went up to a forest that I'd never been to before. I just kind of did some Googling for forests and that. And luckily, it had this kind of on the website. It had this kind of 3D video view of it, and I thought, that looks like it's going to produce something. And I got some nice things there as well. But if there wasn't fog or mist, I'd be, what do I do here?
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, I see what you mean. One of the things that's no brainer when you're doing woodland photography. The mist takes away the confusion in the background, doesn't it? It makes it so easier.
It does.
But
only a few can do it so well without mist. One particular person. What's his name? Oh God, is it Matt Oliver? I've got his book. So I think it's Matt Oliver, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah, Matt Oliver.
Yeah, I've got his book up there. I would stand up. I've got my shorts on. And I'm not walking over there in my shorts.
Yeah, it's a cracking shot.
I appreciate that more than you know, Nick, because I train online an awful lot, do my day job. And when it comes to doing a late evening one, every now and then I might have my pajamas on underneath my desk.
Yeah.
And I have once or twice stood up and forgotten that I've got them on. All my clients, 30-odd clients that go, nice.
I mean,
Okay.
I probably shouldn't be saying this, but my colleague Harry, his wife is a barrister.
All right, okay.
So she lives on Skye. Well, they obviously live just on the road on Skye, but she is a barrister in England. So she sometimes has to go down south, and a lot of it she does Zoom calls. And she posted something on her Instagram the other day. She had the suit top,
Yes.
and I think it was like a pair of tracksuit bottoms on. So this is all you see. You don't see what's down below that. I can wear
Absolutely,
pajama
until you
bottoms or
forget.
whatever.
It's when you
Yeah, no one
forget
needs
that
to
that's the
know.
problem. Not
That's
so
a
good.
good point, actually. Yeah, okay. Well, what we'll do, guys, I'm going to pass you back to Louise again.
Before we do, Paul, can I just chip in? Nick, I just want to ask you, were talking about processing. You didn't do much processing on this one. Do you do much post-processing, or
No.
Or is it something you prefer
for the most
not to bother
part, no.
with?
I mean, obviously, when I did the black and white shot, I went kind of a bit above and beyond, because black and white, the world's your oyster, really. But for the most part, although for some of the shots I got on this particular morning, like I said, I kind of made them feel kind of bluer. But for the most part, the way I process my images is sympathetic to what I captured. Try and keep it as close to what I captured as possible. Call me a purist or what, I don't know. It's just the way I like it.
That's
Some
fair
people
enough.
do
I
really well with
don't do
how
much
they
myself,
process,
so-
but for me, it's just how I captured it.
Yeah,
even
that's
as in
fair. No, I
monocle.
usually feel I'm cheating if I do too much processing.
I mean, some people do really well out of it, and all credit to them. I'm not going to mention names, but there's a particular guy out in the US who made loads of money from his overprocessing, oversaturation. He's found a market for it. So, it's just not how I want to represent, the landscape that I captured.
Yeah,
You get that, actually. And looking at this image as well, you can just make a simple edit to it if you want to even try it in black and white into a monochrome shot, because there's a lot of darks and lights.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I mean, it was because it was the obviously the light coming down on the green moss that just kind of caught my eye. But it's like the rainbow. Why would you want to make a rainbow black and white? But
exactly.
You've got lots of contrast here, so it probably it would work.
Yeah, I mean, you're
I'll have a
obviously
look at that when I get back from the US.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to pass back to Louise again. So back again.
Right. So every now and then, one of the things that people talk about is consistency and striving for a particular look. And I think sometimes you can look at a photographer's work and just go, "Oh, that's a blur person." Blur is the technical expression in photography world. Do you feel that you have a particular kind of a signature approach or look? That people can just go, crikey, that's a Nick Hanson photo. So I think I can spot one of your photos.
Right. I mean, I was going to say, well, what do you think? But what do I?
But you see, that last one threw me because the tree.
Well, yeah, because you expect to see a photograph from the Kerrang, don't you? Or as Nigel Danson said this morning, the Kerrang or something. Yeah, so I mean, it's not a typical Nick Hanson shot, is it? Because I like mountains, rugged ridge lines and what have you. But it's not something I've necessarily gone out of my way to try and achieve by any means. A consistent style with the majority of my work. As I've just touched on before, in terms of processing, it's very for the most part, it's very sympathetic to what I captured. So that's it's not necessarily a signature style, but that's what I do. But I suppose, for the most part, what I gravitate towards is kind of quite moody and atmospheric conditions. So that's what grabs me. So that could be my signature look. My favorite shots, my best shots would have the mood, the atmosphere, whether it be low, kind of low hanging cloud and just maybe a little bit of light coming through, or even if it's a bit more, but just got kind of lower cloud that's hanging down. That's what I look for. When I want to go out, when I'm planning a shot. But so some people have said to me in the past, I can tell a Nick Hanson shot, and I don't even know what they mean by that, because they haven't actually elaborated on it. I think early on someone said about, your work is very simple. I wasn't quite sure how to take that at the time. But I think my compositions, I don't like to overcomplicate my compositions.
You make it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. I used to be a developer, and there's a phrase in IT, KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
I don't know if any of you heard of that before.
Oh,
yes, I'm in IT as well, Nick. Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's not something that I necessarily go to do.
It's easy sometimes for the external viewer to just get a feeling of whatever it is that makes it.
Yeah.
And in a way, I suppose what's quite interesting is when you do have a look that starts developing, it's that people can spot you. That's lovely. But what you don't want to be, I suppose, is confined by that, constrained by that.
Which I do think sometimes I maybe by going to the Kerrang so much. I can remember maybe 2 years ago, I was at the Kerrang and got a phone call from my boss, Marcus. And he said, "Oh, where are you?" And says, "Oh, you're not at the Kerrang again." And I think that's maybe a sign. But the reason why I keep going back is in the last 18 months or so, I've actually, this is my 10th year living on Skye, and it's only the last 18 months that I've actually gone exploring the Kerrang area further, looking for new viewpoints. So I've got all these 4, 5, 6 viewpoints that I want to work and get, this shot from what I think is the best shot that I can get from there. But obviously there may always be that next, I can get a little bit better. So I think so. So I feel sometimes that people, I don't know if, because I don't ask people whether I am pigeonholed as Mr. Kerrang. There was actually a comment on a young lady's Instagram. She's here at the moment. She's going over to Harris today. She was delayed on Skye because the ferry didn't go yesterday because we had like 50-mile-an-hour winds. And so she went to the Kerrang this morning, and I made a comment on her photo, and then she went, "Oh yes, boss," and said, "I'm not the boss." And she said, "Well, you probably are of this area." And I was like, okay, so she's kind of pigeonholing me as Mr. Kerrang, and I think but a good thing, a bad thing, I don't know, but I kind of see it as a bad thing.
That's a compliment, Nick, because I say you know it so well. You've done the top shots.
Yeah, but when I post photos, so when on social media, I've always kind of said that I don't post for the likes. I just post to share my work. Yeah. But on my Facebook page, I get very few likes on non-Kerrang photos.
Really?
I don't know why, whether it's just the algorithm or something, and I do get more likes when I post a photograph from the Kerrang. I may get 100 likes. Shots that I've posted the last couple of days, probably been from Harris and Lewis, 20 likes, 40 likes.
I've liked them, just so you're aware. I've liked them.
So I don't know whether that is a factor. Whether it is because people are looking for the Kerrang shots. But it's just coincidental, that's just the way it happened, whereas on Instagram, it's maybe more consistent in the number of likes, when they're from a non-Kerrang shot to Kerrang shot.
It's an interesting point you said.
Of course, I'm coming up in about a week and a half's time, Nick, and you're not even there.
No, I'll be in the US. So you're coming up to Skye?
I'm kind of going through.
Oh, you're going to Harris, Lewis?
So I can't pronounce it, so I'm going to say this. Bridge, right there, the campsite there, and I'm going up to Harris and Lewis for 6 nights, and then I'm coming back through as well.
Oh,
but you're in the US,
you pronounce it.
So whereabouts are you staying? Did you say?
I'm the bridge. I'm going to pronounce it. It's the
Isle of Skye. No, Sligahin.
Is that how you pronounce it? I'm really pleased.
Well, that's how my colleague Ruth, who speaks Gaelic, pronounces it, Sligahin. But just call it. The locals just call it Slig. So just when you hear, just say I meant Slig.
Now I'm going to do that because I'm going to do a video, and if I did my Slig, marvelous.
Just so it's Sligahin. Just say it fast, Sligahin.
Write that down, Sligahin.
Yeah, so we don't really pronounce the H. So that's what Ruth, my colleague who speaks Gaelic, says. That's how it should be pronounced.
We love her.
I remember that.
She's
she's on Photography Online. Yeah, she's the one that hosts.
I feel like I know her, even though she has marvelous. Right, so I think one of the things I'd love to ask you is, we get an awful lot of kind of advice, I suppose, or comments when you're starting off in photography? And there's going to be a lot of people that are at various stages of their photography journey. What is the most insightful advice that someone gave you on your journey to becoming a photographer that resonates with you today, Nick? Por favor.
Well, I, for the most part, are self-taught. So I never really, although I mentioned earlier about coming back up to Scotland and hiring Neil McIntyre, Andy Howard, whoever, but it wasn't for the technical side of photography. It was to be taken to, where the species, where the mountain hare and whatever, and just being shown techniques of stalking your animal, stalking your subject, so to speak. So I never really kind of had any kind of, shall we say, technical workshops where there was any kind of great advice. One piece of advice is it's to how I got to where I am today, I suppose. It's a previous colleague of mine who was, well, at one time he was my colleague, one time he was my boss. And he kind of said, go with your gut. And I put that down to so I came up here in 2015. I was the customer. So I did the workshop with Marcus McAdam when I worked for. I don't know if you know this, it might have been in Out of Photography magazine. And so it was the end of that workshop. Marcus offered me a job to come up to Skye. So I was a web developer at the time. I was living in East Yorkshire, working as a web developer. Photography was my hobby, my passion. Had been since the age of about 14. And yeah, he just, I love the way you work. I don't know why you're on the workshop, blah, blah, blah. I thought he was a bit desperate. That's what I always say. He must have been desperate, because Harry was in his first year here, and I thought, oh, well, he's not me. Harry's not doing a good job. Got to get someone else. And it was, it was an instant yes, and I just went with my gut feeling at that time, and that's kind of what I've done in all that various aspects of my life of moving around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But one piece of advice, and it's kind of, maybe it's a bit cliche, that I would give to someone, and this is a very basic level, is learn your camera.
Oh.
And what I mean by that is where all the buttons are.
Yes.
Just so you hold your camera in the hand, and you know where the ISO button is. You know where the shutter speed, where the aperture, how to get into the menu. So you're not like, say your hand's holding the camera, you're not taking it away from your eye. And where is this button? Yeah. So we had a group of photographers last week. I don't know why I look behind me. Someone listening?
Check they're not listening.
Yeah. A group of photographers recently, and they were all set up on tripods at one location. And this one lady wanted to change her ISO, and she kept pulling the camera towards her. So the two legs of the tripod were coming off the ground because she didn't know where the button was. So then when she put the tripod back down, her composition was now changed. Or the horizon wasn't level because she didn't know where the button. She kept actually turning the camera off rather than changing the ISO. She was turning the camera off each time. I do have a lot of customers that it takes them so long to get set up, and that's because they're fumbling around trying to figure out, remember where things are. But I can kind of get it in a way, because when you've got workshop customers, this may be the first time in 6 months, a year, that they've been able to use a camera. They're on holiday. We got a lot of US customers, who this might be the first time they've picked it up in a year. This is their vacation, and they've
invested in you as well, and your knowledge and everything.
Yeah, but then it kind of can get a little bit frustrating when when it's very obviously don't know where all these buttons are, and I'm trying to help them. And the good thing about me, I would like to say I've got a lot of patience, and I think that's a key. I kind of digress here. That's a very key thing, and as a workshop guide, but also in various aspects as well. Having patience with your customer when they are kind of fumbling around, or even just with their tripods. God, don't get me started on tripods.
But if you think
I've kind of digressed. I've gone way away from your question there, Louise.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's if you ever changed kind of cameras. I had an EOS R. My husband, God knows why, but thank you for him, bought me for my significant birthday an R5, and
21.
All my run, as far as I'm concerned, and the number of swear words I've had to edit out of my videos because I'm getting something ready and I realise I've just completely screwed up my settings.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure I could work out how to put them to the right. Now I'm completely in that. If I got my EOS R back out, I'd be just the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the R5 and the R6 Mark II. And when I go from one to the other, there's buttons that are different on there. And I'm like, sometimes takes me a minute. There's the main dials are there, but like going from video to stills or vice versa, little things. It's like, oh shit, no, I've turned the camera off instead of doing that. So yeah, no, I do understand.
So you're a Canon man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
You haven't stopped me that well, then.
You're absolutely right. I'm making a political point at this point in time to the two other gentlemen.
It's packed away in the bag, ready to go tomorrow.
Nice.
Lovely. So I'm going to end on one last question then, if I may. Got two questions I'd like to ask you, but I'm going to choose one. Here we go. If you could talk to your younger self in the first, sorry about this. In the first few years of picking up a camera, what advice would you give yourself? And you can take that wherever you want to, Nick.
Yep. I'm 52 now.
Join a club.
This is actually quite easy, I would say.
It's been a big challenge.
And it's a cliche answer. It's kind of one that can be a cliche answer as well. So my early days, I would get frustrated. So I say I was more into wildlife photography. I'd go out, spend 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever, say, hoping to photograph roe deer. Didn't see a single one. And I'd come away so disheartened by that because I didn't see my subject. To tell you, you've got to remind yourself, you've been outside for 3, 4 hours. You've not been stuck in an office or, sat at home doing nothing. You've been out there enjoying, you've been enjoying nature. And that's one of the big things for me. I love being outdoors, whether it's cycling, even just walking up in the mountains, in the hills, the river, or out with my camera. Just being outside is, it's very cliche, but it does a lot for this.
Oh, doesn't it?
Very much so. Yeah.
I think everybody here would say that exactly.
Yeah.
That.
Great.
If I go out and it ends up pouring rain or whatever, and I don't get the light or whatever, I've kind of enjoyed being out there, even though it's been pouring rain, but I've been out there, I've been for a walk, and that's what it is. So yeah, that's what I would tell my younger self. Don't worry about not seeing your subject or not getting the light.
Nick, speaking my language, mate, on that one there. Big time. Well, I thought that might be a challenge to you, that question, but it clearly wasn't in a moment, because we've kept Nick for one of your Earth hours.
As long as it needs.
In which case, can I just ask you one more quick question?
Mm-hmm.
I find this fascinating because I discover lots of people. You've obviously mentioned a couple of people. I've got my lovely magic pen here. Who in the realm of photography inspires you, or potentially has anyone caused you to take your craft in a slightly different direction, even temporarily, to explore that's really had an effect on you in the longer term? See, that was
that's a curveball.
And if no one has, you can always say me.
Of course, yourself, Louise.
Oh, I love you.
Now, although I've touched upon the fact that I don't do much woodland photography, Mark Littlejohn. So I actually did a one-day workshop with Mark. I mean, this was back in, I believe this was 2015. I think it was before I came up to visit Skye when I got offered the job. And so this was when Mark was living in the Lake District. And one thing that Mark had said to me was, don't go looking for the shots. I mean, this is kind of a piece of advice as well. Don't go looking for the shots. The shots will come to you in the woodland photography. Mm-hmm. And then spending that day with Mark did although I don't do it a great deal at that time, it kind of sparked that interest in wanting to explore woodland photography more. Just his kind of ethos, the way that he discovers his shots. And, I'm not someone that kind of looks at photographers of days gone by. I could name it. I mean, I get names thrown at me by various customers. Like Mark Littlejohn's kind of one of the most inspirational for me of modern photographers, and he's a really nice guy as well.
Yeah, definitely. I do like him. I think he's right up there, one of the best in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think he has a way for me of just seeing those quiet scenes that you might just walk by and he'll just stop and look and take note of. Yes, there's one that he every now and then will put out on his social media, which is one that he took from the boats, and it's one that's got probably 2/3 of the foreground is the lakes. He's on the boat. It's a kind of a 24-105 lens, I believe, and it's just the contrast between the darks and the lights. It's almost like a zebra in front of you. It's just absolutely stunning. That was the shot that kind of caught my heart on his work. It just, I'll take Mark Littlejohn, and I'll go back and have a long look at his work. Nick, thank you. Can I just say thank you so much for your time tonight, lovely man?
Oh, thank you.
Really,
thank
really
you.
nice. Just finally, I know I comment every now and then and give you a lot of love on your social, but it's really lovely to be able to say hello in person, and just thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom and your photography.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been great to be here. I mean, I was a bit nervous before this, although we do our own podcasts.
of course.
Don't involve
We're
video.
in control of those,
but
aren't
they're not interview podcasts as such. But there's still an element of surprise there as well. And I always hope, I just hope that I come across okay. Because when I did the Outdoor Photography magazine interview, then when I got the article, I thought, oh no, why did he say that? I didn't say it, because you're opening up and you say things. I mean, obviously this. I mean, that I could, if I was given a proof copy first and said, well, actually, can you not put that in, or could you change that to like I live 50-minute walk from the Kerrang, 50-minute drive. And he used a thing called Nick's Pinnacles. I don't know if you mentioned a thing at the Kerrang called an area, and it's only between me and my other half because we have areas that we call various things by name, so we know where we're going to go that morning. But I actually call them the Kerrang Pinnacles, not Nick's Pinnacles. I wouldn't. I'm not that big-headed, to put out on social media. This is Nick's Pinnacles. It's like so. I'm always conscious of maybe saying something that's going to just be.
I will stick for now on, I think.
Fair enough.
That's cool.
Anyway, just thank you for your time tonight. It's been great. And may I just say how
Louise.
inconvenient that you're going away just as I happen to be going from the south coast of England, right the way where you live.
Yeah, because I won't be
not
back
a purpose
until
at all, Louise. Not at all.
No, I won't be back until I'll be back on the 18th. I think it's a Saturday. Or something like the 18th or the 19th.
Well, whatever happens, have a cracking couple of weeks.
Thank you. Well, that's as long as I can get into the country. I have to have this covered up. Apparently, people don't like people with tattoos at the moment.
Not sure what they do like. Anyway, have a cracking. Sorry if I get banned, but there we are. Have a lovely couple of weeks away, and we all very much look forward to seeing your shots, lovely man.
Thank you.
You're very welcome,
Nick. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Take care,
guys.